You are shame, disgusting, all in the eyes of God. God calls you an abomination. God calls you an abomination.
So recently, I have been, as you guys can see, just putting up a lot of videos on Christianity and overall the Christian culture. I don't have a problem at all with those who fought with the heart of Christianity, Jesus itself, and Jesus himself, and what exactly Christianity actually stands for, what it's supposed to be. But the culture that is kind of like grown from it is where we have a lot of the problems. And I've found that people don't necessarily reject Christianity, but they reject the culture of Christianity. And that's what pretty much this whole series of videos that I've been like releasing ever since me and Alex and Angelica's video on Christian creativity. I think that I've been just holistically trying to allow us to be able to see this Christian subculture that we've created and how it's negatively affecting the world that we're supposed to be trying to positively impact. So Christians, number one reason why people do not like us is because we are fake. Lecrae posted a video recently, actually yesterday, as I'm making this video. He posted this video yesterday on his Instagram page, and it's a video of him, I believe it was Tadashi, and then some of his other boys. One of them was wearing like a faith-based shirt, and they were just kicking it, they were just hanging out. They were in Argentina, I don't know, it was someplace. They were just having a good time, and this is what Lecrae captioned the photo. "Don't be so self-righteous, you don't know how to have fun. I love my dogs, because they don't pretend. They keep it 100. I remember thinking Erykah Badu sat around drinking tea and kicking philosophy all day. I met her and she was silly, fun, and more ratchet than I knew. I learned people are complex and nuanced. We can't make people fit our perception. My friends rock with the real me, not the perception. Get friends that know the real you and love you for it." Afterwards, I had a conversation with someone in ESFP actually who DM'd me off of that, and she said, "This is so true. Literally everyone needs to hear this. I literally feel like I don't have many friends because I'm too real for people, and I don't act all holy because, let's be honest, the only holy person in this world is God. I strive to be like him, but that doesn't mean I need to not be myself in doing so. The more I embrace myself, the more I see God's attributes in me. How can you not be yourself?" This, what she said right there, is exactly why I am so into life coaching. It's exactly why I, even as a Christian, a lot of Christians think that personality psychology is demonic and stuff like that. But for me, I love it, clearly from my page, because it's a tool that I believe God has given us to be able to better understand how he intricately wired our minds. But so many of us have gone so heavily with becoming Christ-like that we are forgetting to become more like ourselves. We fail to understand that in trying so hard to fit into this Christian subculture, we are obliterating ourselves, and now we're acting all churchy and, you know, stuff like that, but then we can't even be really vulnerable with other people, the very people that we're trying to impact. Instead, what we are doing is we're showing this fake facade, and we say things like, "Oh yeah, you know, God's working on me, you know, blah, blah." Like, we act like we're like imperfect or whatever, but even in our acting as if we're imperfect, it seems staged. I've seen people even on YouTube that, like, when they're talking, they sound like I'm not going to say that guy's name. But they just pretty much are just like, you know, yeah, but you know, God's just been working on me. And I'm not perfect, but God is. And he can work and it's just like, yes, that's true, but do I actually believe that you even believe that? I don't know. It just seems staged to me. And I think that that's the problem that most of the world has. I don't even think that it's the problem. I know that it is because I talk to so many non-Christians, and that's exactly what they tell me. And then they meet me, and they're like, wow, Denzel, I would have never expected you. Well, not never. That would be a problem. But they pretty much say, like, I wouldn't have expected that you were a Christian or, like, that you were, like, one of them in that way because of the way that I treat them. They expect Christians to be these super churchy, the type of people that you ask like, oh, how has your day been, or how are you doing? Oh, better than I deserve, because you know this morning I should have been dead. I should have been rolling in my grave, in hell. But God, oh, praise Jesus, that's extra and fake. The reason why the world does not like Christians is because Christians fail to be authentic a lot of the time. And this whole subculture that we have just makes us even seem more fake. The music and the arts, the artistic stuff that we have, it lacks authenticity, it lacks vulnerability. And in doing that, we literally drive away the world that we're supposed to be impacting. And that's sad. Another reason why people do not like Christians is because we have too many taboo fences. I cannot describe how often I've been in Christian circles and I've had to continuously think in my head like, okay, what is appropriate to bring up? What's appropriate not to bring up? What's taboo? What's not taboo? Even some people who don't even think like that or try to even like register that, they'll say certain things, they'll ask certain questions, and then everybody else will be like, oh my gosh, how could you? And it's just like, what? I understand that we're supposed to be God's sanctified, holy people. Okay, that's cool, that's understandable, that's great. But in trying to shield ourselves from so much of the holiness and like blinding ourselves from it, then in actuality, we are in a way showing more how inauthentic we are, and we're hiding from our enemy. We're being oblivious to our enemies, because we are refusing to even look at what the enemy's tactics are. And so then if we pretend as if we don't even have the enemy, or if we just keep on trying to look away from the enemy, how do we know what the enemy is up to? What kind of strategy are we using? And this really just all feeds right back into us being inauthentic, because it's like, we don't talk about sex and masturbation and whatever taboo subject around here. And then that same thing gets people into trouble. Once again, this is not to shame my parents at all, but when my first girlfriend, which we wouldn't even really count, was in 4th grade. And I remember coming home one time and like asking my parents like, oh, at the school that I go to now, they talk about boyfriends and girlfriends and stuff like that. And my mom and dad were like, don't get involved in that type of stuff. I'm like, okay, why? I'm naturally inquisitive. I want to know the why behind things. And from what I recall, they didn't really speak anything about lust or, nothing along those lines. Instead, they had like a slippery slope mentality of, if you get a girlfriend, she's going to get pregnant, and then you're going to have to be in trouble or whatever. And it's like, oh. Now, mind you, I didn't even know what sex was back then. I didn't know, I know a lot of 4th graders are probably watching this maybe and be like, what? I knew that when I was 4 years old. Yeah, back in my day, I literally did not even know what sex, porn, any of that was. Just like I said in the Heart of Evangelist video, until I was 7th, 8th grade. And people at my school introduced me to that stuff. So that's another problem. But once again, I talked about that in the last video. But us avoiding these taboo topics then creates the open gap for other people to come in, and then pretty much those tactics, they they teach us the perverse version of sex, the perverse version of just about anything else. And before you know it, we go one of two ways. That's the only way that we see it because that's the only way that was presented to us. Or, I guess that still falls into it. The second one still falls into it. We start to see it in that way, and then, so so it'll become the only way that we see it. But now, we come into the one of two ways where it's like we demonize sex altogether, or we demonize whatever other taboo topics that people have to talk about altogether and just see it as like bad, or we really indulge in it and like even overuse it because it's like, whoa, like where has this thing been my whole entire life? And I feel like if we had more openness to talk about such topics in our Christian circles without being so hush-hush about it and using all of these euphemisms that people may not even really understand, then we could actually have more people avoiding premature pregnancies and, you know, I'm using a lot of alliteration today, and, you know, just like things along those lines. So I heavily encourage us to stop with the pushing away of taboo topics. If your daughter or son is asking about sex, then go ahead and allow them to talk about it. Go ahead and allow them to, like, tell your daughter or son, sex is beautiful. Sex is great. Sex is whatever. I haven't had sex yet, but, you know, like, I can only imagine. You know, like, sex is all of these things. However, it is a gift that is to be unwrapped between a husband and a wife. And unless you two are married, you're practically stealing. Explain it to them that way. Then they might start asking, like, okay, well, why is it supposed to only be in this way? Why is it only supposed to be in that way? You know, why only in this context? And then go ahead and explain even the furthermore. Like, if you don't know what the furthermore of that is, then you can check out my Misconceptions on Christianity Part 2 video, Episode 2, and I go on like a whole 20-minute spiel or like lesson on why sex is to be done in the confines of marriage, like what the a few of the consequences of that could be. If you introduce all of that to your child, chances are they will now understand that you're not just trying to keep them from leaving the Pride Land because you're trying to keep them from having fun, but rather you're being a loving father or mother who's trying to keep them safe, and you know the dangers that are out there, and you just know that your protection is not guaranteed out there. So be sure to, like, you know, be open with your children about these taboo topics. And the last reason that I want to share as to why people do not like us Christians is the fact that our delivery of the gospel is poor. It's trash. Oftentimes it's just trash, straight up. We claim that we love people. We claim that we want the best for them. We claim that our God is so loving and everything, and we're supposed to be representative of him and of Jesus, who showed love more than anybody else who'd probably like ever lived, who has actually ever lived. Who do you know who died for the humanity, you know? But then we go out and we do things like what I showed at the beginning of the video. We go out and we're just yelling at people, hey, you better repent or you're gonna go to hell. You better, you know, and it's like, yes, the message is true according to what we believe, but the delivery is so poor. It's so poor. We don't even try to understand people where they're coming from before we try to give them our piece. We're listening to try and respond, as opposed to listening to trying to understand and then come to a consensus. And that's so sad. We need to stop that immediately. Here's one big example, and I don't want to call this person out, but if you recognize it, this is just what it is. We have this popular Instagram thing where it's like, hey, you ask me a question. Everybody likes to talk about themselves. Shoot, I even do it. But someone asked this person, what do you do when you are young and very impatient about marriage, the age of 18? And the person responds, go to school and read your Bible. And he puts that picture in the background to indicate like some sort of belittling, condescension. That's not okay. There's just a good way to use tact when you're speaking to certain people. Even if that's truly what you wanted to communicate, I'm not saying like I'm better than anybody, but if I was given that question, then I wanted to communicate the same message, I could have possibly said something along the lines of, I get where you're coming from. When I was 18, you know, I had the same problems, whatever. But I really believe, you know, focusing more on God is the key. And of course, like, you know, it's limited what you can post on the Insta story. But I would have even like chose to DM the person if that's the case. Or I would have said like, I would have given a truncated answer of that and then said at the end, but you should definitely DM me and we can talk about this. That person, in my opinion, was looking for a sincere answer. Or even if that person wasn't looking for a sincere answer, the people who are watching that story were. And from that answer, that just shows the arrogance that some Christians can have, the self-righteousness that some Christians can have. And this is why people don't like us. How do we expect to become approachable? How do we expect the world to love us, to see us as loving when we can't even love them properly? That makes no sense. We have people out on the streets with picket fences or picket signs, whatever, saying God hates fags. There's just a tactful way to answer so many different things. To use tact is to be Christ-like, is to be compassionate, is to be loving. I was listening to Antonia Dodge in a Personality Hacker episode, and she said, it was one of the recent ones. If you have the podcast app, or even if you go over to the Personality Hacker website, they have a podcast on being a good listener. And I know that, you know, it probably sounds like basic or whatever, but they actually, especially like towards, not really like towards the end, but like if you listen towards the middle, they start unpacking really deep stuff. And one of the things that Antonia Dodge said was that her friend, she was quoting one of her friends, she said that if you're truly listening to somebody, if you're truly listening to them to understand, all that you have for that person is compassion. And I agree. If you're really understanding where a person is coming from, understanding their perspective, getting into their head that well, then all that you really have is compassion. And then people are always more liable to listen to you once they know that you actually care about them. That you're not just throwing or like religious words or knocking them upside the head with the Bible, you know? But instead, you're actually loving them and you're expressing to them that I care so deeply for you that this is why I'm telling you this. People are always more susceptible to taking your advice when they know that you literally have their best interest at heart. But we rarely do that. We say it, but we don't mean it. Or even if we do mean it, it sure doesn't look like it. It's not convincing. Stop. This is why people do not like Christians. And I'm personally tired of it. I'm so fed up with it. I'm so fed up with the Christian culture, the Christian subculture for this reason. I just want to end this video by encouraging all of you to check out my Heart of an Evangelist video and my Christian creativity video. That's not the exact title of it, but you know, like I encourage you guys to check it out. Even if you disagree with it, listen to it completely, try and understand where we're coming from, and then you can bring whatever things that you think that maybe like I hadn't considered yet, or whatever things that you may disagree with in general. You can bring those up to me and we can discuss them civilly. But right now, I feel like this message is so vital because Christians, we act like, oh, you know, like we use that verse where Jesus is like, well, if they hate you, it's because they hated me first. But the thing is, people did not hate Jesus because he was actually like attacking them or whatever. In fact, he was only attacking the Christian people. He's pretty much doing like what I was doing. He was telling the Pharisees like, yo, why are you trying to stone her? Why are you trying to do this? Why are you trying to do that? You guys lack compassion. We're falsely victimizing ourselves. That's what Christians are doing nowadays. False victimization. And it sucks that I have to do this to my own people. I haven't abandoned you guys. But it's a shame sometimes to even walk around with that title because of what people already perceive of us. And I can't even blame them. You need to stop. Stop that. And if you know people like this and you're not a Christian, I apologize on their behalf. I hope that you're able to look at my channel, see where I'm coming from my heart, meet some other Christians, maybe even schedule a coaching session with me, something, and we talk this over and you really see like what at least what a heart of a Christian is really supposed to be like, a true heart of an evangelist. Now, that's not to say that I'm perfect. Definitely not perfect. But I do genuinely care for people. And I genuinely love Jesus. And I think that if you genuinely love Jesus and you genuinely care for people, then you're pretty much a godly person. It's not because of the things that you actually do, but it's just your heart. And I know that Jesus can look in my heart and see that I do genuinely care for him, and I genuinely care for other people as well. And you cannot genuinely care for Jesus without genuinely caring for people. That's what I believe. So do you guys remember my friend Andy, Jamila's older brother, that I recorded the ISTP video with? He actually launched his blog, The Church Revolution. And I really think that you guys should check out a lot of the content that goes on there, because essentially me and him are pretty much saying the exact same thing. And his titles, as aggressive as they may look, you should read it. It's even more aggressive. And for those of you who understand type, he's an ISTP, so you already understand that he's not holding back anything. If he thought that I was passionate, if he thought that I was doing something, well, he's on a whole other level, and he's just speaking from a passionate, loving place of truth. And me and him have had many conversations. He's actually the one who recorded the video at the beginning of this video, and I think that you guys will just really enjoy the content on his page. So be sure to check that out, and I'm going to put the link in the description below for all of you guys to go and see. Thanks everyone for watching. Thanks for listening. Once again, I do life coaching sessions. If you want to figure out which personality type you are, that's $25 for that first session. If you want to actually have coaching on personal development, on learning Christian theology, how to grow closer to Jesus, all of that, even if it's just like banter, about like ideas and thoughts that you've had in your head. Some of my clients, now I have some clients who they don't even necessarily need coaching. They just want somebody who's able to, bounce around ideas with them and just have good conversation with them for a whole hour, and they don't mind paying the money for it, because sometimes they're just that deprived from the people around them who are unable to really have those type of conversations. If you're willing to do that, yeah, that's $50 an hour as well. So just email me, dz2blessed@icloud.com. That's DEEZY2blessed@icloud.com, and I can get in touch with you. We can set up a session and we can pretty much go on from there. But once again, thank you so much for watching this video. I hope that it's moved you. I hope that it's allowed you to take a look at yourself and make a difference in this world, a positive difference in this world, positive difference in your walk, and ultimately a positive difference in other people's walk due to the inspiration that they get from you. Done.